you blasted crustacean! Watch where you're walking!
Sorry, little one. You're so small I hardly saw you.
Little one, out of my way! You will bow to plankton! Eventually. A hammer? I don't want a hammer.
Don't be so one-eyed about it. The Magu enhancement means that you've got something you always wanted.
But this isn't the Krabby Patty secret recipe!
No, size!
Yes! Now I can crush my enemies and take over the world! Hey, what gives?
Move it! Time to let the paranormal expert show you how it's done.
Ha! A balloon launcher. Oh, after you save the universe, you can make a living doing kids' parties.
Inferior human, give me my weapon.
A plunger?
Not just any plunger. This is the plunger of doom!
Come on, the chum bucket's in danger.
It really bothers me how out of character Dib and Zim are in this game. Like, it feels like they asked Zim's voice actor to tone down his screaming quite a bit, and he's not reacting normally. And Dib in particular, his character seems way dulled down. Anyway, it's time for more SpongeBob. We're going to finish up SpongeBob's world this time around, and I like the second level the most. I like it quite a lot. Mostly because of the changes in scenery, and it has some stuff that that many other Nicktoons games forgot existed from SpongeBob. Hey, so do you remember that episode where SpongeBob went to a junkyard? I do. They went there searching for Mr. Krabs' mattress, and that episode doesn't seem to re-air very often, if at all. I haven't seen it in ages, but this game remembered it exists. So you see Jimmy's weapon there? I don't know what that is. I think it may be the same weapon from Attack of the Toy Bots, but that doesn't help me discern what it is, because I couldn't tell what it was in Attack of the Toy Bots either. I have absolutely no fucking clue what that thing is. If anyone else has any idea, let me know. I consider myself fairly well versed in the Jimmy Neutron lore, and I still have no fucking clue. So let's talk a little bit about music. Music is hard. It's weird. Music is very weird and hard. I don't know how you're supposed to judge music. I don't know how you're supposed to compose music. I mean, I know how you're supposed to compose music, but it just seems so strange to me. This enemy shoots projectiles. They're dead now. But I've rarely listened to music I would actively consider bad. And music is such a subjective thing, you know? Like, I don't know how one goes about defining objectively bad music. Because some music that people insist is just incredibly awful, I consider highly artistic and bold, and I quite like listening to it. Evergrace's soundtrack comes to mind, as well as Forever Kingdom's. Those are some of my favorite soundtracks in video games. Never heard anything else quite like them. Sunbeams Streaming Through the Leaves, in particular, is my favorite soundtrack in Evergrace. There's a very autumn feel to it. It's a big shame that we haven't been able to feel autumn or fall around here lately. It's like it hasn't even existed. Same for winter. This last winter was incredibly hot, to the point that we had to have the air conditioner on during the middle of winter. And this is supposed to be a fairly cold state. I like the kind of junkyard jazz the battle music has going on when you fight enemies in the junkyard. Really dig that. You know, actually, something about the act of forming opinions or thoughts in general is kind of strange to me. Like, at what point do I decide that I like or dislike something, or that I think something is good or bad? Because I consider those separate. Like, is it just a gut instinct thing when I decide that I like something? Does it just happen instantaneously? Mr. Krabs' mattress is in here right next to the worm. I think this is a really cute Easter egg, but yeah, here's Mr. Krabs' mattress from the episode. So this is definitely the episode they were referencing, in case you were curious. But anyway, is it just like an instantaneous, like a snap moment, like, and then I like something? How is it for you listening at home? How do you know when you like something? Does it just happen instantly? Does it happen so slowly you don't notice? Because I can't tell. I always try to remind myself, hey, when you're watching or consuming this piece of media, try and find out the exact instant that you did or did not start liking it. But I either always seem to forget, or I just can't pinpoint it. Now, it's a little easier to pinpoint when I find out whether I think something is good or bad. It's still a little iffy, but mostly it's signified by a feeling of disappointment. Not a disappointment in the personal taste department, but a disappointment in missed opportunities or poorly thought out design or writing. Like, usually there's a couple lines of dialogue or a couple of game design choices or something that massively disappoint me. And then those get balanced with the things that impress me or that I thought were intelligent, and it just comes out like that. And you know, as sad as it is, there are plenty of things I really like that I have to admit are quite bad. Like Sonic 06. And I really, really like Never Dead also. But then again, I also consider a lot of things quite good that most people seem to utterly hate, like Mind Jack. So who knows what's going on in there? Who knows what's going on up in my brain juice? I don't want to hear you giving me shit for not talking about this video game, because this video game is what made me think about these things, and I dare you to try and find something to talk about with this, okay? Everything to enjoy about this game is pretty surface level. Like, there's obviously a great deal of environmental variety, obviously, and that's a highlight of this game. But you don't need me to tell you that because you can see it. You know, I always get upset when I have to talk shitty about a game. Even when the game makes me angry, I always feel upset that I have to talk shitty about it because I've played so few games without love and care put into them. And when a game is just so utterly painful to play that it feels like an insult to the player, I know that it was still trying to be good, and that hurts. That hurts me in the deep meat. In the soul meat, if you will. If you won't, I don't blame you, but I'm still going to call it that. So hey, do you remember that movie theater in SpongeBob? Well, this game does. You only see the movie theater a couple times. But this game remembered it existed. And I can't think of any other Nicktoons game where you go inside the movie theater. This game has better SpongeBob environments than most actual SpongeBob games. Like, the environments in Nicktoons Unite are just an embarrassment in comparison to this. Because they just clearly cared so much about making things look nice and pleasant. And it's just a good time all around. There's a little Looney Tunes thing going on here where we come out the wrong doors. I just always wish I could capture that exact moment when I figure out what a game is, when I figure out what a piece of media is, and the impression that makes on my psyche. Okay, I just stopped for a moment to Google the term psyche, and I really shouldn't be using that term because it means a lot of things, some of which sound really stupid. So just pretend I meant the, what it does to my brain. I mean, I jokingly use the word soul a lot, but I don't get into that whole thing. I'm kind of a believe in what you can see kind of guy. Well, not just see, but, you know, empirical evidence stuff. Granted, there are some exceptions I have to make whenever someone's in pain, because I can't think of a good reason to not trust someone when they say they're in pain, even if you have a lack of evidence, because you generally have nothing to lose but time. And is your time really more valuable than the person who's in pain's time? Because really, what else are you doing with that time, honestly, if you're not helping people? Now, if the person in pain is blaming someone else, then it's okay to ask for proof. You know, that's an entirely different situation, because they might be lying to make themselves feel validated when they tell someone else what happened. Because people do that a lot, you know? It's a very tempting vice to lie to people to get them on your side, but that's what causes more pain, and then it gets to be this endless cycle. And you really don't want that. I love the projector flipping out. I think that's a really cute touch. Alright, let's get in one of our team-up attacks. It's really cute. Alright, Patrick's free. So the game does decide for you which characters you team up with. And I understand for some people this may be a turnoff, but you have to remember they're pretty much carbon copies of each other. And the reason it chooses your partner for you is so that way you get a chance to see all the team-up attacks throughout the game. So yeah, it's a little bit weird, but I never personally minded it. Because what am I going to do picking a specific character? They all control the same. Very, very rarely do they have different special attacks. Like, most of the time their special attacks are all the same. They just trap the enemy in some way, which allows you to get in a one-hit kill. That's what most of them do. I can only think of one exception off the top of my head. No, two exceptions off the top of my head, and I think those may be the only exceptions. You may consider that a shame, but I feel like it's good they all control so similar, because in a game this simple, you really, really want the buttons to do what you want them to do, and not do something unexpected or unhelpful. So here's the Bubble Bass boss, and he has a cute gimmick where we have to grill burgers and fling them into his mouth. We have to wait until the burgers are properly cooked, but if they're overcooked, then we can no longer use them, because SpongeBob has standards. And each fully cooked burger we fling into Bubble Bass's mouth decreases his health bar. Balancing the simple burger cooking with the ever-spawning enemies is actually kind of challenging, but I tend to prioritize the burgers over the enemies, because a very deep part of me dislikes the idea of the burgers burning. Like, I know there's no real penalty for it except for having to make another burger, but I really dislike the idea of letting the burgers burn. It just kinda hurts for some reason. But yeah, it's pretty simple, but it's fun. I like that you can cook two at a time. It has more going on than the entire rest of the SpongeBob world. So there's that to it, you know? It's not really a bad boss in any way. It's a little different. Mixes stuff up.
Where are the pickles? Yes!
Yes! I mean, no!
The goo's all over you. but you're not mutating.
It has to be your unique sponge-like characteristics that somehow make you immune to the goo's mutating effects.
Yuck. Now I know how a pancake feels under all that syrup.